I'm going to be focusing on the national security policy issued by President Donald Trump, specifically National Security Presidential Memorandum number number 7. This memorandum is focusing on countering domestic terrorism, political violence. Um, it was made like after the assassination of Charlie Kirk, um, and it mentions the assassination of a healthcare executive or whatever. But we're gonna be reading what Donald Trump wants happening, and it'll be very short, of course, not going too deep into it. All right, so reading from the top, the National Security Presidential Memorandum number 7, memorandum for the Secretary of State, the Secretary of Treasury, Attorney General, Trump Secretary of Homeland Security. Basically, Trump's what Trump wants. An executive order is basically like Trump like ordering the departments to follow a certain set of rules. Basically, to follow a certain set of rules, or it can also be used to like if somebody's breaking the law, they can use the president can use the executive order to enforce the laws, basically to enforce the existing laws that already exist. So like in this case, he's like enforcing like terrorism laws or whatever. So let's keep going. Political violence by the authority vested, blah blah blah. Me, Donald Trump. I am the president. I am national security. Number 7. Number 7 is my favorite number. 7 is me. I am 7. 7. They should change the word from 7 to Trump. After all, who else would be better fitted for it? All right. Anyways, let's keep going. Section number 1, domestic terrorism and organizing political violence. Heinous assassination and other forms of political violence in the United States have dramatically increased in recent years, even in the aftermath of the horrifying assassination of Charlie Kirk and some individuals who adhere to the alleged shooter's ideology, embrace and cheered this evil murder while actively encouraging more political violence. This was preceded by the 2024 assassination of a senior healthcare executive and the 2022 assassination attempt against the Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh. Two separate assassination attempts against my own life in less than 3 months took place during the 2024 presidential election cycle. Riots in Los Angeles and Portland reflect a more than 1,000% increase in attacks on U.S. immigration and customs enforcement officers since January 21, 2025, compared to the result to the same period last year. Just yesterday, a shooting targeting an ICE facility in Dallas resulted in multiple casualties. Separate anti-police and criminal justice riots have left many people dead and injured and inflicted over $2 billion in property damage nationwide. Well, there's a lot to be had here. I mean, I definitely do agree. Like, there's a lot of uneasiness, a lot of political instability. Even more so nowadays. It is kind of sad that like he doesn't like mention the school shooting that happened, school shootings, mass shootings. Uh, 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 you know, there's like other forms of like veterans like you know carrying out acts of terror and stuff like that, not out of their own velocity, but as a result of like mental illness and uh, inappropriate care. But he's definitely right. There's a lot more instability. Um, it is kind of telling about like what he chooses to focus on, what he considers to be political violence. He doesn't talk about like the unlawful arrests of like American citizens, putting them in U.S. prisons unlawfully, or ICE concentration camps, detaining them in those camps or whatever. The unlawful, deportations of people that are not supposed to be deported. He doesn't consider that political violence. He doesn't consider mass shootings at schools political violence. He doesn't consider, all this other stuff political violence. It's kind of telling, but You know, so you could be going further into it, but yeah, there's a lot of instability, I would say, that is problematic, of course. Let's keep going. This political violence is not a series of isolated incidents and does not emerge organically. Yes, it fucking does. It observes it. It forms from political instability. It forms from economic instability. It result it um, comes about from uh access to guns being very simplistic and all that stuff. Like, you can't shoot somebody if you don't have a gun, obviously. This political violence is not a series of isolated incidents and does not emerge organically. Yes, it does. Instead, it is a culmination of sophisticated, organized campaigns of targeted intimidation, radicalization, threats, violence, designed to silence opposing speech, limit political activity. It comes from Donald Trump, who tried to literally cancel a news network. Change or direct policy outcomes and prevent the functioning of a democratic society. Yeah, the society that's, harassing people, going to their houses with mass secret police and breaking into their homes, breaking their windows open, breaking their car doors open, using facial recognition software to investigate them and see if their citizenship on with, you know, mass, media corporations, and this is a democratic society, very democratic of the U.S. A new law enforcement strategy that investigates all participants in these criminal and terrorist conspiracies, including the organized structures, networks, entities, organizations, funding sources, and predicate actions behind them is required. So basically, they're just going to investigate whoever they considered to be doing these acts of terror, which, it could be anybody. It could be anybody. It's probably just anybody Trump doesn't like. Because I don't think they're gonna go after, like, right wing people, like, they might, or not right wing people. They won't go after like conservative. Oh, they will. They will. I mean, there's no real reason to believe that ICE wouldn't lock up conservative people. I mean, there's no real reason to believe that. But anybody the U.S. doesn't like, they'll be going after them. Basically, that's what that says. These campaigns often begin by isolating and dehumanizing specific targets to justify murder or other violent actions against them. Ironically, that's what fucking ICE is doing. They're saying that they're criminals, they're aliens, they're rapists, they're killers, they're smugglers, they're drug traffickers. They predicate on women, they predicate on children. They that's pretty bold language, low key. They do so through a variety of including anonymous chat forums, in-person meetings, social media, even educational institutions. These campaigns then escalate to organized doxing, where the private or identifying information of these targets, such as home addresses, phone numbers, or other personal information, is exposed to the public with the explicit intent of encouraging others to harass, intimidate, or violently assault them. It's also a problem with the internet, uh, as swatting, doxing. That's a big problem that a lot of people on the internet face. As in the case of several ICE agents in Los Angeles being doxxed, well, I don't really care about them being doxxed. They're freaking terrorizing people, freaking assaulting people, breaking their cars, breaking into their homes. You know, they're doing crazy stuff. I don't think it really matters if they're being doxxed. Like, they're doing criminal activity. Of course, they're gonna be. The goal of these campaigns can be to the goal of these campaigns can be to obstruct the operations of the federal government, as well as to aid and abet criminal activity the federal government is lawfully pursuing. Oh, you're not lawfully pursuing it if you're breaking people's windows. I mean, that's just like because you dehumanized them and said they're rapists. So you're gonna fucking break their windows and assault them and do crazy stuff to them. Anyways, keep going. Man, I keep hashing on the same points, but it's really the same. It's really like the same like ideology. That's like pretty simplistic. I mean, especially considering like a majority of the people that they arrest like have no criminal records, or because naturalized citizens, or not naturalized citizens, sorry, uh, citizens of the U.S. are more likely to commit crimes than immigrants, unfortunately. Well, that is pretty fortunately, because I don't want fucking crimes to happen to me, but you get what I mean. Anyways, keep going. These campaigns are coordinated and perpetrated by actors who have developed a comprehensive strategy to achieve specific policy goals through radicalization and violent intimidation. I mean, that's kind of like what ICE is doing, basically like normalize, secret police, black bagging, uh, anybody the president doesn't like. Anybody the president doesn't like. I guess that's kind of like the evolution from Trump to Obama, is that like Trump just wants to black bag anybody he doesn't like. I guess Obama might have done it. I just don't know. But I kind of just seems like what Trump is kind of like radicalizing people towards, normalizing. There are common, recurrent motivations and indicia. I don't know how to say that word. Uniting this pattern of violent and terroristic activities under the umbrella of self-described anti-fascism. What is anti-fascism? You guys are fascists. These movements portray foundational American principles, law enforcement, and border control as fascists. Well, yeah, it is fascist if you're freaking, you know, saying that everybody you're going after is a rapist and a drug dealer is criminal or whatever, and that because of that they deserve to be assaulted, they deserve to be kidnapped, their kids deserve to not know where they're at and lose their parents. They and I guess the solution, I guess Donald Trump's solution would be to just get rid of the children too. Take the children. We don't want them. They need to go back to that shithole. After all, you're coming to the neighborhood of the. You're coming to our garden and you're tearing it up. You're just like weeds. Get them out, pull them up, and throw them to the trash. Take them back to where they came from. But it didn't come from there, they came from the ground. So they need to go back. They need to go back somewhere. You know, something like that. It's Donald Trump thought. Fucking stupid. All right, yeah, keep going. To justify and encourage acts of violent revolution, that's not true. There's no anti-fascists that call for a violent revolution. This anti-fascist lie has become the organizing rally cry for used by domestic terrorists to wage a violent assault against democratic institutions, constitutional rights, and fundamental American liberties. Like, is he talking about ICE? Like, why is he saying the anti-fascist lie? Oh yeah, the domestic terrorists are freaking ICE agents. They're the ones that are freaking, arresting people without probable cause. You know, you know, Avoiding them of Miranda rights of right to search and seizure. You know, trying to well, it's not really ICE. It's really Trump that's trying to like get rid of like the is it the 14th Amendment? 14th Amendment that you can treat people equally. Anyway, keep going. Common threads animating this violence include anti-Americanism, anti-capitalism, and anti-Christianity. So basically, he's basically trying to say that he's saying that Christianity, Americanism, and capitalism is is when ICE agents go in is when ICE agents go and brutalize like teenagers and pregnant women and and elderly people and people that are trying to live their lives and so he's basically saying that that is Americanism and capitalism and Christianity, which I'm not gonna lie, I don't remember Jesus or God or Moses or John or any of them. I don't remember any of them saying anything about, secret police coming in black bagging people, but I might just not know Christianity that well, but I don't think that that's what Christianity says. Support for the overthrowing the American government and extremism on migration, race, and gender. Hostility towards those who hold traditional American views on family, religion, and morality. Whatever the hell that means. As described in the order of September 22nd, 2025, designating Antifa as a terrorist organization. The groups and entities that perpetuate this extremism have created a movement that embraces and elevates violence to achieve policy outcomes, justifying additional assassinations. For example, Charlie Kirk's alleged assassination engraved bullets used in the murder with so-called anti-fascist rhetoric. The United States requires a national strategy to investigate and disrupt networks and entities and organizations that foment political violence so that law enforcement can intervene in criminal conspiracies before they result in violent political acts. I mean, the U.S. already has its secret police. It has the FBI. It has the NSA. It has the CIA, but I don't know if the CIA even does domestic operations anymore. What should they probably do. They used to, sell crack to black people and get their neighborhoods and destroy their neighborhoods. So they probably still intervene in domestic affairs. Anyways, US already has these institutional means of pressuring people, so they're probably just gonna use it. That probably just means that Trump is just, he's just being open about. He's saying that we're gonna use the state to crush any anybody we don't like, which Trump just makes up enemies, and those enemies just happen to be everybody that doesn't like him. Uh, through this comprehensive strategy, law enforcement will disband and uproot entities, networks, and organizations that promote and organize violence, intimidation, conspiracy against rights. Conspiracy? What do you mean conspiracy? They're freaking kicking people out with no legal precedence, and other efforts to disrupt the functioning of democratic society. Very democratic, Donald Trump. I am democracy. Democracy is me. I started the word democracy. Do you remember? You remember what the word democracy was? It was on Trump's shoes. They made the shoes after me. And then came the word. And then there came me. Because they knew I was coming. Because who else would be coming? It's me, Donald Trump. Investigating domestic terrorist operations, the Joint National Terrorism Task Force and its local offices shall coordinate and supervise a comprehensive national net investigating, prosecuting, disrupting these individuals engaged in the political violence and intimidations designed to suppress lawful political activity or obstruct the rule of law. So you won't go after police that, brutalize protesters or run them over with cars. You won't go after ICE agents that illegally arrest people that are using Israeli surveillance technology uh, violate the Fourth Amendment and, have like national digital profiles and very um, unethical, conduct. But there's other people that are apparently doing it, and they're doing it worse, I guess. This strategy shall include the investigative. Also they shoot also they throw chemical weapons at children into at schools and stuff like that. The JTTF shall investigate potential federal crimes in relating to acts of recruiting or radicalizing purpose for political violence, conspiracy, riots, terrorism, and the operation of any citizen's rights. This is nonsense. If you oppose me, if you oppose fascism, you're a fascist. We will get you. We'll get you. Institutional and individual funders and officers and employees of organizations that are responsible for, sponsor, or otherwise abet the principal actor in engaging in criminal activities described in sections A, B. Non-government organizations and American citizens residing abroad or with close ties to foreign governments, agents, citizens, foundations, or networks, influence networks engage in violations of the Foreign Agents Restriction Act or money laundering by funding, creating, or supporting entities that engage in activities that support or encourage domestic terror. Ironically, there was actually a Jewish I don't know if he was a billionaire or not, but he was a Trotskyist that funded left wing guerrilla fighters in Argentina. Ironically, the U.S. CIA went after him. If you remember that during that time, the Argentina was controlled by a military dictatorship that was closely run by Nazis, basically, and other fascists and Nazis. They hated Jews and stuff like that. But ironically, that the CIA has always done this. So like this isn't actually new. I just remembered it, so I just thought I would bring it up. Um, where am I at? JTF, uh, Terrorism Task Force, consult and coordinate with executive departments and agencies as needed to determine whether such agencies can apply existing authorities or exercise their own authorities as appropriate. Blah blah blah. Joint terrorist task force may, to the extent permitted by law, request additional operational assistance from and coordinate with law enforcement partners when investigating domestic terrorism. I mean, they already do that. Like, there's like no resistance from that. Joint American Task Force shall provide regular progress updates to the president through the assistant to the president and Homeland Security Advisor. I mean, you can't really trust Trump because Trump doesn't really like pay attention to anything, so he doesn't really know what's going on. He just says what's on his mind, so he doesn't really care about the truth. The Attorney General shall direct the Department of Justice to prosecute all federal crimes except the ones committed by Donald Trump and ICE agents, and by police, and by anybody the government's, even by the regime supports, to the maximum extent permissible by law. Basically, that means the maximum extent we want to. Related to the investigation described by subsections A through C, Attorney General shall issue specific guidance that ensures domestic terrorism priorities include political motivated terrorist acts such as doxing campaigns, swatting, rioting, looting, trespass, assault, direct destruction of property, threats of violence, and civil disorder. This guidance shall also include an identification of any such behaviors, facts, patterns, recurrent motivations, or other indicative common to organizations and entities that coordinate these acts in order to investigate, direct, and prevent potential violent activity. So basically, investigate anybody the U.S. doesn't like and try to create an FBI profile on them. Secretary of Treasury, Security, and in coordination with the Attorney General shall make all available resources and maximum intent to identify and disrupt financial networks that fund domestic terrorism. So ironically, that just means that pulling news networks off the television that cover things as such that are against what the regime is, or against what the government is saying. So try to cut off funding to those institutions so they can't fund their operations. Secretary through Terrorism and Financial Intelligence Office and Department of Treasury shall employ investigative tools, examine financial flows, coordinate with partner agencies, trace illicit funding streams. The Secretary shall provide guidance for financial institutions to submit suspicious activity reports, and then investigate indicia of illicit funding streams to ensure such activity is rooted out at the source, referred for a law enforcement action as appropriate. The Commissioner of the IRS shall action to ensure that no tax exemption entities are directly or indirectly financing political violence or domestic terrorism. So, I think this goes for like, it's supposed to be a jab at like universities and colleges and anybody else. I don't know if some news networks might be considered that. I don't know. Basically, to strip their their government their government benefits if Donald Trump doesn't like them. So realistically, when they say political violence, they actually don't mean political violence. They just mean anything that Trump considers to be against him. Because like this is obviously all about Donald Trump. He doesn't Trump just doesn't like anything that goes against him. That's why he tries to cancel all these news networks. In some cases, he actually did win some of those lawsuits though, but only because they didn't want to go through with the lawsuits, of course. Anyways, all law enforcement agencies with investigative authority shall adopt strategies similar to those used to address violent act crime, organized crime, to disrupt and dismantle entire networks of criminal activity, except the ones in the fucking White House, except the ones under Doge and under billionaires, except the ones with Hunter Biden's son, except the ones with Donald Trump and Epstein. No violent crime there. I did nothing. Department adjusted a designation in the course of, and as a result of actions of the investigation directed by Section 2 of this memorandum, the Attorney General may recommend that any group or entity whose members are engaged in activities meeting the definition of domestic terrorism merits designation as a domestic terrorist organization. The Attorney General shall submit a list of any such groups or organizations to the President or the Assistant to the President and Homeland Security Advisor. Domestic terrorism as a national security priority. The Attorney General and the Secretary of Homeland Security shall designate domestic terrorism, a national priority area, and develop appropriate grant programs to allocate funding for existing law enforcement partners to detect, prevent, and protect against threats arising from this area. Yeah, so that just means that we're gonna fund more Gestapo agents because we need more secret police if we want to protect everybody, if we want to stop terrorism, we need more secret police to do more terrorism. Because if they do the terrorism to stop the terrorists, then they're not then the terrorism will solve terrorism because the secret police will never do anything. The secret police have never done anything illegal. We've always followed the letter of the law. We have followed exactly what we were supposed to do. And anybody we don't like is a terrorist. If you violate the law, and you don't even have to violate the law, we'll just say you did. If you meet the definition of a domestic terrorist, you're a terrorist. The FBI will investigate you. We'll take your grant money. We'll try to strangle you. We'll try to get you. We'll surveil you. We'll surveil your family too. And then when you end up gone, we'll just erase your FBI profile. We'll erase your FBI profile and black it all out, and nobody will know anything. It's definitely not happened before. Definitely not under me. Authority granted by law to executive law head of the functions of director of office and budget relating to budgetary and legislative proposals. Memorandum, blah blah blah. Donald Trump, thank you for your attention to this matter. All right, that's a pretty quick overview of National Security Memorandum number 7. What Donald Trump wants. Pretty much some horse shit. Nothing really. Nothing really that's gonna stop with school shootings or actual political violence by solving socioeconomic activity in certain neighborhoods, whatever that use like crime as a form of economic development or whatever. But of course, U.S. obviously doesn't want to do that. They don't really care about that. They only care about like maintaining like order and control instead of like solving social issues, which is a pretty big problem with the U.S. government as it stands now.